So, you're planning a road trip across the United States. Well, you'll definitely need this. And this. And maybe this. You might see this, or even this. But mostly, you'll see a lot of these. These signs tell you where to go, or where you are, but most of them have something else in common. They're typeface. Highway Gothic is carefully composed to guide you to your destination without distracting you. But for the past decade, another typeface has been trying to take its place. Highway Gothic was created in 1948, right around the time highways started crisscrossing the United States.
It came out of an initiative at the California Department of Transportation to develop a clearer and more legible standard for highway signs.
Of the 6 fonts or variations they developed, this version became the highway standard.
The spacing is specified to be quite loose, and that's something that is a big help in viewing at very long distances. Those angled tops to the letters that you see in the L and the T, that was the solution that appeared in Highway Gothic to differentiate shapes. It becomes important in states like Illinois, where you have cap I and lowercase l's, and you need to be unambiguous about what's what.
Soon after its creation, every highway in America was plastered with Highway Gothic. But by the late 1980s, with the introduction of new reflective sign materials, Highway Gothic started to have problems, specifically with something called halation. Halation is when light spreads beyond its proper boundaries, creating a halo effect. It's that glow you see around a bright object on a TV screen, like in this scene in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, right there in the upper right. Elderly drivers specifically were having trouble reading these signs at night, as lowercase letters like E, A, and S started blurring into O's.
The counter of the E, that's really very tight there. Even before you point a headlight at it at night, even in broad daylight, that would blur together.
But by this time, a potential solution was on its way. By the end of the 90s, font designers and a crew of researchers from Penn State and 3M had created the second typeface we see on highway signs, Clearview. At first glance, Clearview and Highway Gothic look pretty similar, but when you look closer, you can see how different they really are.
Decisions like the counter of the A and the counter of the E, those internal spaces are made much larger. The curves of the A and the U, they trend towards this kind of squarish shape. I suspect that was done to further reinforce the enlargement of these internal shapes. Highway Gothic stumbles quite a lot. If you take a close look at the lowercase s, it does seem like one side of the curve is arguing with the other as it goes through that pretty complex track that has to follow B and S.
Clearview tries to fix that by widening the spaces. Opening up these letters can help mitigate the problem of halation. And during testing, Clearview showed a 16% improvement in recognition over Highway Gothic at night, which meant that drivers that were driving at 60 miles per hour would have an extra 1 to 2 seconds to make a decision based on sign information. In 2004, the Federal Highway Administration granted interim approval for Clearview to be used on an optional basis, mostly when old signs needed to be replaced. Around 30 states adopted Clearview in some form. The resulting mix of signs has caused some confusion, and further studies have called into question Clearview's improved legibility, specifically on lighter colored signs and its more stylized number forms. One study from Texas A&M in 2014 found that Clearview's legibility was not statistically different than Highway Gothic's.
I think in purely mechanical, I would say Clearview is more successful because it does create a more even texture than Highway Gothic. There's something very distinctly American about Highway Gothic, and it is a bit blunt and stumbling and loud. And Clearview is almost, in that respect, too polished.
Today, the FHWA still allows the use of Clearview in some cases, but they make no recommendation or endorsement of the Clearview letter style. Which means if you go out on the highway right now, there's a mix. 2 fonts that ultimately do the job they're designed to do, get you where you're going with the least confusion.